Hello there. This is your girl Valerie Mason Chase, and I'm here with the Cookie Man. So, we have a subject matter to discuss on this evening that it's not always an easy topic to talk about because we're going to talk about infidelity, the aftermath of infidelity, the questions that spouses or partners ask themselves or should ask themselves if they are experiencing infidelity. Um, but before we get into our subject, I first I want to say something to my cookie man. Okay, because I probably don't. Let me rephrase that. I know that I don't often enough thank you for your support.
Oh.
And thank you for showing up.
No, I'm just kidding.
I know I don't. I don't. And I know a lot of times, and you have even said to me sometimes, without, you point out certain things that I'm not doing or that I don't do or I don't do well, but you don't often enough say, give you a pat on the back or attaboy or something like that. So I want to just say to you, thank you for being so supportive.
Always.
Even when I was transitioning from nursing to counseling and I was in school and I'd be up late, either reading or working on a paper or something, and you'd be in the bedroom, waiting for your girl to come hit you off with a little something, You never complained. You never said anything, and you have been consistently supportive. And I want to thank you for that. And
you're welcome.
Especially for doing this. I see that there's somebody there. Welcome. Say something in the chat so I can know who you are. Especially doing this, because this is really my thing. It's not your thing. And even when I felt that God laid it on my heart for us to do this together, and I approached you about it, you were not so sure that this is something that you wanted to do. But you are here, you show up, you participate, and I just want you to know that I recognize that. And I don't take it for granted. I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate you, babe. Come and give me a little sugar. So anyway, for those of you who are watching live now, or if you're looking at it at a later time, make sure that you are, I ask that you hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can not just be notified when we have an upcoming broadcast, but also you can go back and look at some of our other topics that we've discussed, because we've talked about a whole lot of things. I didn't realize we had as many videos on as we have. So anywho, I just want to get into our topic tonight, and the subject matter is to stay or to go when there has been infidelity in your relationship. And it's not an easy decision to make.
No, definitely. It's not easy to make. And once you make it, especially either way, once you make the decision, you start to question yourself, and it's still hard. Either way you go, you're going to feel some ramification of that decision and some pain and some heavy lifting.
Yeah. But it's definitely not an easy decision to make. Now, I know I am an advocate for relationships, but we are not here to decide for anyone whether they should stay or whether they should go.
Can't do that.
But what we do want to have is a conversation about some of the questions that each partner can or should ask themselves before they make that decision to stay or to go. And it's not exhaustive, but these are an example of some of the things that you can ask yourself, or your partner can ask themselves as well. One thing I will say, I strongly suggest that you don't make an immediate snap decision as soon as the affair is discovered. Because when you do that, when you make that decision within the first few days or weeks of discovery, you're going to make that decision from an emotional place, a place of being agitated and angry and upset. And all those things are right there on the surface. And that is the absolute worst time to make a decision whether you are going to stay in your relationship or whether you're going to leave your relationship. So, like I said, we're not here to tell you to stay or to go, but to suggest that there are some questions, some hard questions that both you and your partner should ask themselves. And they're questions that both people need to ask themselves, the betrayed partner and the unfaithful partner. Because a lot of times we look at infidelity and we say that it's just the betrayed partner that has to ask questions and make a decision as to whether or not they want to stay in the relationship. But the unfaithful partner, they have a choice in the matter too. They also get to decide whether hey, Miss Myrtle, Karen, hey, how y'all doing? Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you there. And Danielle, I see you there as well. But there's some questions to ask. Both people need to ask, the betrayed partner as well as the unfaithful partner, because the unfaithful partner has to make a choice. Do they want to stay in this marriage? Do they want to give up this relationship? Do they want to do all this hard work? So it's not just the one who has been betrayed, but also the one who has done the betraying.
And when you ask that question on the side of the one doing the deed, so to speak, you just don't know what's ahead of you.
Absolutely.
When you make that decision after all the infidelity that you might have done, you say, okay, I want to make it work. Boy, you don't know what's
you don't know what's on the other side.
You just don't
but
know.
Don't scare the people, baby. Okay. Don't scare them yet. Okay. Don't scare them yet. Don't scare them yet. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Because when an affair is discovered, there are typically 3 or 4 questions that the betrayed partner will ask initially. The first question they ask is some version of, why did you do this? Or how could you do this to me or to us? That's one question. Another question they want to know is, did you have sexual intercourse with that person? And then they want to know, especially women will ask, do you love them? That's what those are typically the top 3 questions that will come out initially on D-Day. And when I say D-Day, I'm referring to the day that the affair was discovered, whatever kind of affair that it is.
And those questions, as easy as they are to read, they're hard to answer. I'll take the last one. Do you love that person? Now, if you're talking about a long-lasting affair that's been going on for a while, I mean, how do you really answer that question? Or do you love them? Are you in love with them? Or is there an emotional connection? Because those things happen.
Those things happen.
Even though you're doing something wrong, emotional connection does and will occur.
Yes. And here's the thing. This is the only question that I recommend the unfaithful partner delay in answering. And here's why. If there's been an ongoing affair over a course of time, months, maybe a year or 2 or 3, whatever number of years it may have been, if those 2 people have been spending a lot of time together, it stands to reason that there's going to be some sort of emotional connection, some sort of fondness that the unfaithful partner could have for their affair partner. But here's the thing. The betrayed partner in the beginning is not ready to hear that. They are not, even though they may ask the question, they are not ready to hear that. And let me just say this. Go ahead, baby. Did you want to say something?
And I was going to say the reason why they're probably not ready to hear it, just like you said, because they're coming from a point of anger, agitation. Why? So you're not really listening. You're not ready to handle it. I don't think.
No, you're not ready to hear it. And what was I going to say? At some point, that can be addressed. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Frank and I are here I'm here not just as a counselor, not just as a relationship coach, but we are here because we have personal experience with infidelity in our relationship. And I remember after our last separation, when we got back together.
Please be clear.
Yes, I want to be clear.
Be clear.
You know, he always does this, because he wants to make sure. Okay, here's the thing.
We're going to be clear with stuff. That's all.
We're going to be very, very clear and transparent.
Yeah.
And we have been in all of our broadcast, podcast, whatever you want to call them. But Frank always wants to make clear that even though he's the one that started out having an affair, that at some point I had one as well. Okay. And I have to be willing to admit that. I don't like admitting it. And I used to make excuses and justify it, but we both did it.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. But what I was trying to say is this. When we were the last time when we were separated, and we spent 6 years being separated from each other. And during that 6-year period, Frank had an on again, off again relationship with this one particular woman. So after a while, I had to say to myself and acknowledge that, of course, over the course of time, I'm sure that what the young folks say, you catch feelings.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I know, definitely without a doubt, she had feelings for him because she let it be known. But I know that Frank, at some point, even if it may have been an infatuation, because in the moment, infatuation feels like the real thing.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's hard sometimes to tell, especially until you remove yourself out of that situation and get out of that relationship. Then it makes it easier to identify it as infatuation, and it's not really love, or you're not really in love with that individual. What do you say when you have to say that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. You have to remove yourself from almost any situation to clearly see what's going on.
Absolutely.
Good or bad. You have to step aside and kind of reevaluate things. Absolutely. And it takes a while to step aside because as I know the quote, but it came from The Wire. And one of the guys that was like the soldier, he would say, once you're in it, you're in it. It don't matter why, you're in it. so it's hard to step back now once you're in it to kind of look at it.
Absolutely. But that sometimes is what's required in order to see it more clearly and to see it for what it really is. Okay. Because it's very, hey, Widow Chips. Mm-hmm. Slim Charles. He said it's Slim Charles. That's who the character was. Because it's very easy to think, that with all these feelings, but see, that's not a real relationship. That is an idealized relationship where there are no issues. Okay, it's an idealized romantic relationship. It is not. Hey, Mr. Sheldon, thank you so much for watching. It is not a real relationship where you have your life together, you have children together, you're dealing with this and this and this and this and this together. So it's very easy to look at that outside relationship and say, oh my gosh, I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to deal with that. See, sister girl, all she got to do, let's say if she's single and she ain't got no kids and she ain't got none of that, all she got to do is when he show up to just sit there and look cute. Meanwhile, you going to work, you got to deal with the children, you got to go grocery shopping, you're doing the laundry, you got to wash his funky drawers. She ain't got none of that to do. So it's very easy to idealize that relationship as opposed to the real one that you have with your partner.
There's a lot of truth to that because there might not be no kids, some of those responsibilities that your wife has with you as a husband. Mm-hmm. But again, when you're in, use myself an example. If you're in a relationship on and off for that longer period, you have some of those real issues, even though the relationship is built on.
Well, you did because she was crazy as hell.
Well,
so.
That's not a nice thing to say. Come on.
Yeah. Okay.
You find yourself in some of the same situations that relationships bring up, even though the relationship was
based on a lie.
Right. Yeah. And it's misleading someone and thinking, it's. Yes, so that's what I wanted to say.
And that's the whole thing about infidelity. no matter what type of affair it is based on a lie. It's not based on truth. It's not based on reality. Because listen, if you have an affair, whether it's an emotional affair, a sexual affair, whatever type of affair it is, you have to, at some point, you got to lie to your spouse. Not only that, a lot of times it requires you lying to yourself about the situation that you are in. Right? All right. So I want to get to some of these questions. And these are questions for the unfaithful partner to ask himself or herself. This is for the unfaithful, the one who has cheated. Here's a question for you to ask. How willing are you to completely sever the relationship with the affair partner? Sever all contact, all communication, and you cannot be friends with them. You can't. And some people try to do that.
Yeah.
They try to end the affair, but still say, oh, this is my friend. That person is not your friend. Someone who will cheat with you, someone who will help you deceive your spouse, that person ain't your friend. I don't care how you look at it, how you try to cut it, how you try to define it. That person is not your friend. Oh, hey, Liz, thank you. She said she loved our shorts, babe. That person's not your friend. So what are your thoughts on that about ending completely severing?
Although I agree, it's not easy.
I know that.
It is not easy. You
Absolutely.
fight within yourself. You try to come up with reasons or excuses to continue talking or to say we're friends. It was a struggle for me for a long time, because when I felt like I was being told, it wasn't me knowing and coming up with this is what I need to do. Right. I felt like I was being told what I had to do.
Right.
And for a long time, Brother Man wasn't trying to hear my wife tell me what I got to do. No, I ain't got to do. No, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that wasn't always the best thing.
It was not the best thing.
I fought with that for a long time. And it wasn't easy to, not so much, well, I'm going to even say cut off the connections, but listening to the whys and where it was coming from in terms of coming from Val. I would get my behind on my shoulders. You know, don't tell me what to do. I'll do it when I get there. Or I come up with the reasons why I can't. Or I used to say, I need to keep that insurance policy in the back pocket in case things don't work out over here.
Absolutely.
I can keep this avenue open. And it wasn't right to Val, to me, or the other person.
And, you know, Frank is so right, because a lot of times that will happen when you want to save your relationship, your marriage, or whatever, but you kind of have that insurance policy just in case. And it's really it's unfair to the people in the marriage, but it's also unfair to that person on the outside, because you keep them hanging on. You got this carrot dangling in front of them, like the possibility that there's going to be an ongoing relationship with you and that other person. So yeah, that does happen. You try to keep that on the outside as an insurance policy, but you come back to your primary partner and you pretend as if, because it's pretense at that point. If you haven't completely cut off the relationship with the outside individual, it's all pretense, because it's not real. You pretend like you want to save your marriage or save your relationship, maybe even go to counseling. And Frank and I experienced that. We were in couples counseling and he was still seeing the chick, right?
Yeah. I mean,
it's crazy.
You convince yourself of a lot of things to continue to do what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I used to find myself questioning myself. Why are you going over there? Now I got time to turn around, but I can never come up with that formalized plan or idea to say, you know what, go back, because I wasn't ready. That's the bottom line. I wasn't ready.
And see, that's the thing. That's why I say that both partners in the relationship have to ask themselves these questions and answer honestly, because it's not just a betrayed partner who gets to decide whether you're going to stay in the relationship and work on it, because the unfaithful partner has to ask and answer these questions as well. And like Frank indicated, it's difficult. Hell, it was different. It was difficult for me. I didn't want to let go because Frank had been cheating for so many years. It had been going on and on and on for so long. I kept saying to myself, if I come back to this mofo and I accept him back and I done gave a bro man over here, I ain't gonna be happy.
Trying to hold on to that
insurance policy, but eventually I had to get to the point. I say, look, first of all, I'm a woman of God. It's wrong in that regard, period. Okay. It got to a point where I wasn't even thinking about Frank and our relationship, but my relationship with God, and it was wrong. So that had to come to an end. Must come to an end. And E. Nicole said, we're right. It has to be 100% totally severed. So here's the question. What if contact is inevitable, such as you and that person, you work at the same place, and contact is inevitable? What do you do then?
I don't know. That would be a good... I know what Val would probably think. I
get that resume together,
right? Get another job.
Get that resume together.
And he would be my response. Well, listen, it's not so easy for me to get a job. Like you can go and get a job at a drop of a hat. It's not that easy for me.
Yeah.
And I might say, okay, how about I change my shift?
No,
or something.
I wouldn't be satisfied with that either. Because here's the thing. I am a firm believer in doing everything possible to minimize the possibility of something occurring again. Okay. You've got to shift your thoughts on your walls and your windows, because all relationships, we have walls and we have windows. Walls are meant to keep things and people and harm outside of the relationship. A window is between the two spouses to have that connection, that openness. When there's an affair, it's all twisted up, because the wall is now between the husband and the wife, or the two partners, and the window is open to the outside person. So if the relationship is going to succeed, if the marriage is going to work, you've got to make a total shift of your walls and your windows and make a hard choice. If it's inevitable, let's say the two people are working on the same job, that's a hard decision to make. Especially if they are going to see each other or work within close contact with one another. You have to have a real conversation about that. And maybe just consider the possibility that maybe while you resign from that position, and until such time as you get another job, we agree that I'm going to cover the finances until such time. Why are you laughing?
Why I'm laughing is because I'm saying, hopefully these conversations are made after the anger and everything is subsided.
Yes.
Because imagine
a
hurt spouse saying, yeah, you go ahead and quit your job so you can distance yourself.
Right.
I'm going to cover all the finances. I can't see that. I could hear you. Yeah, all right. I quit my job. You know what? You need to go.
No, but here's the thing. It can happen. It has happened with couples where the affair occurred on the job, and that person left that job and went and worked somewhere else. The betrayed partner agreed until such time as the unfaithful partner can get another job that he or she would cover the finances. Like I said, you have to have the conversation and decide what are you willing to do, because it's hard. There are a lot of hard decisions, hard choices to be made, and that doesn't necessarily happen right away.
No, obviously it can't.
When immediately after discovery, but hopefully the couple is having ongoing conversations and get to that point, because there's a process with this, and we'll talk about some of that later. But here's the thing. Let's say you don't work together, and I run into JoJo at the Wawa. I gotta come back and tell my husband. I don't wait for him to ask, when is the last time you saw JoJo? I know JoJo lived around the corner, and you were around there with your girlfriend last week. Did you see JoJo? No, I don't wait for him to ask me that question. I volunteer the information. So if you're somewhere and you see the affair partner, first of all, avoid contact with them. But if you see them somewhere and that person walks up to you and tries to start a conversation, first of all, you shut it down. And when you get home, say it to your partner. Because let me tell you something. What's that saying is how small the world is? Yeah. It really, really is. And you never know who sees you, even when you don't see them. So I always advocate, be forthcoming with information. Don't make your partner ask that question, because if they find out later that has occurred, it makes it more difficult for them to start believing you and trusting you. And that's what you want to do. You want to get to the point where you can start to rebuild that trust. You look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I think what you're saying applies early on.
No.
Well, let me finish. Because I'm thinking once there is a lot more recovery and trust built after the affair has been found out. If you happen to run into JoJo or I run into Mary, and I just don't think, I wouldn't expect, if Val ran into some guy she had an affair with, we're talking years ago. We are long past that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect her or even think she should come out and say, hey, Frank, I just ran into JoJo.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing.
Now, if she did, great.
You wouldn't have to ask me, because I'm going to be forthcoming. I'm a firm believer. And obviously we disagree. And now I cut him off again. I'm sorry.
No, always do that. Always do that.
No, go ahead.
The point I'm making is not so much the asking, but if you came home, I wouldn't be expecting you to tell me you ran into someone you had an affair with. That's just me.
Okay.
I mean, if you do, great. I'm not going to hold it against you if you don't. Okay.
See, that's what you believe.
Yeah, well, of course.
That's what you believe. But if you find out that I ran into JoJo at, let's say, me and my sister Jackie, we hanging out, we having drinks, and you find out somehow that while we're out drinking, JoJo was there, and JoJo came over and tried to engage me in conversation, and I didn't tell you about it, I can see you having a problem with that.
Like I said, to me, that problem that you're discussing would happen early on.
Okay.
When we are using us for example, where we are now, there will be less, if not any problem. Now, of course, I'm gonna ask some questions. Well, how long did you talk?
Exactly.
But it would not come from a place of distrust or anger.
No.
I'm not it would early on.
No. I'm not even talking about distrust or anger. I'm just talking about being forthcoming. Well, let me just say this for the record, okay? Even if it's 10 years from now, your girl want to know, okay? I'm just keeping it real.
Okay.
15 years from now, you see that heifer? I want to know, okay? And then I can ask my questions after that. But I expect you to come and say, hey, Val, I ran into blah, blah, blah. Okay. That helps to, and as you say, especially early on, it helps to create an environment where you can start to rebuild trust. Because if your partner finds out that it occurred and you have not told them, it could be problematic.
Could be.
So what else is another question that the affair, the unfaithful partner should ask themselves? What's another question?
How willing are you to not only apologize, but ask for forgiveness?
Yes, that's huge. I am a firm believer in saying, I am sorry. Be specific what you are sorry for. And then, will you forgive me? Because guess what? He don't have to forgive me. He could say, yes, I forgive you. No, I don't forgive you. Or I need more time.
Right.
I need more time. I'm not ready to forgive you just yet for that particular thing. Because just saying I forgive you for the affair, that's very broad. I'm sorry that I caused you embarrassment with our friends and family. Will you forgive me? I'm sorry that I really shattered and all the trust we had in our relationship. Will you forgive me? That is very specific. And that is how you engage in apologizing, being specific, and asking for forgiveness, and allow the betrayed partner to say, yes, I forgive you. No, I don't forgive you. Or I need more time. And a lot of times the person needs more time because they're just not ready.
Correct.
Another question for the unfaithful partner to ask is, how willing are you to engage in full disclosure regarding the extent of your involvement with the affair partner? Now, yes, there are some therapists, there are some relationship coaches that don't believe in full disclosure. I am an advocate of full disclosure because that way the betrayed partner, hey sis, and my sister Jackie, hey baby, how you doing? The betrayed partner has more information in terms of what transpired between their spouse or their partner, if they're not married, and the person on the outside. And I believe you disclose everything up to the bedroom. And what I mean by that is you can acknowledge if you had sexual intercourse with that person, but you don't get all specific. You know, well, we did this and he touched me down there and she licked me over here. No. You don't get into specifics. So everything up to the bedroom. Admit that sex occurred, but don't get into specifics because trust me, that vision is so hard to get out of your mind. Visualizing that if they give you specific information. And full disclosure means you tell everything. You don't piecemeal the confession. You don't have a staggered confession where I tell you a little bit today, 2 weeks later I'll tell you a little bit more, a month later I'll tell you a little bit. No. See, full disclosure is full disclosure based on what you can remember at the time, because this is what I like to I practice that with couples where they have had infidelity in their relationship. Let's sit down. Let's talk about full disclosure. Admit to your wife, your husband, everything that you did. Full disclosure. Now, a lot of times it can't happen all in one session. There may have to be another session for that. But the point is, you don't want to withhold information thinking that it's going to hurt your partner. I don't want them to know that I took them to this restaurant. No, tell everything. Because when you piecemeal or give staggered confessions, it makes building trust more difficult. Go ahead.
Well, like you said, as much as you can remember, because there are some times where you unconsciously or deliberately just want to forget anything and everything you've done. I lost my train of thought.
You don't remember everything.
About full disclosure. Because I used to have a problem with that. I didn't want to tell everything.
Yeah.
And it took a while for me to understand that if I didn't, it just gave her an avenue to believe things worse than maybe they were. I mean, a relationship, an affair is bad enough.
Yeah.
But you can only add to her thought pattern if you're not. Okay, what does he not tell me? Right. Maybe this. But if you say everything that you can remember, you're hoping to eliminate any added on thoughts from your partner.
Absolutely.
You know, the fish gets bigger and bigger because then they don't have any information. So they make it bigger.
And here's the thing with full disclosure. When there's infidelity in a relationship, usually, not always, but very often, it's a little more than the unfaithful will admit, but it's a lot less than what the betrayed partner imagines. Because when you find out that your partner has been unfaithful, your imagination goes wild. And you just imagine all this stuff that your partner has done. Doesn't make it necessarily true. I mean, they may have done some of those things, but it's typically a little more than what's admitted to, but a lot less than what the betrayed partner imagines. But when there is full disclosure, you can eliminate some of that. And I'm going to say this. If your partner tells you, I was involved with this person, we talked a lot on the phone, we went out to dinner, we went to the movies, we did this and we did that, and we may have sent text messages and inappropriate text messages, but we never had sexual intercourse. In the absence of irrefutable evidence, believe them. In the absence of, I know what y'all thinking. I know what y'all think. Now,
I know, right?
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did it. No, you're not sure. If he or she says, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this, I felt an emotional connection with the person, I felt close to the person. There were times when we thought about having sexual intercourse, but it never happened. In the absence of irrefutable evidence, believe them. Okay? And here's why. Because if you keep asking yourself, oh, she must have did it. She must have done it. He must have done it. I know they did it. I know they did it. I know they did it. That makes it very, very difficult to continue in the recovery process. That's why I say, in the absence of irrefutable evidence. Now, if any of you are believers, which I am, listen, I told Frank long time ago, and I tell him sometimes now, even if I don't trust you, I trust God. I trust God to reveal what needs to be revealed when it needs to be revealed. And God has never failed me in that regard. Because there was a time when Frank used to call me Snoop Doggy Dog. The boy thought he was hiding. I mean, and the Holy Spirit of God would lead me to exactly where he was. Exactly. And he couldn't figure out, Val, how in the world you know I'm over here? Because if I don't trust you, I trust God. I trust my Heavenly Father to reveal what needs to be revealed when it needs to be revealed.
Well, that brother was always snitching on me.
All the time. All the time. So, yeah, don't piecemeal it. So what's another question that the unfaithful person can ask themselves?
You have to ask yourself, how willing are you to answer all? Not 5. Not maybe 3, but all of your partner's questions. And this is the tricky part. Even if they ask the same question more than once with complete honesty. That's a struggle.
That's a struggle, because let me tell you.
Hold on.
Go ahead, baby.
Here's why it was a struggle for me in the beginning. Because you asked me the question, I'd have probably lied, right? Call myself being honest, but I'd have lied. So if you ask me 3 more times, I get mad because now I forget what lie I told. Right. So how to answer the question again a week later or 2 weeks later, 5 different times, because I lied. And I don't remember what the hell I told you. So I get pissed. Did I answer the question last week? Why are you asking me again?
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. That will be the response very often when the spouse has lied, when you ask them that question the initial time. If you ask them again, well, I already answered that.
Yeah.
Well, I got to answer it again.
Get defensive.
Yeah, get very, very defensive. And that, again, is why I advocate for full disclosure. Because when you, like Judge Judy says, when you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. Just tell the truth in the beginning. And you don't have to go through all of those gyrations. Answer the questions honestly. The same question is going to come more than once.
Oh, please.
Because you probably... your partner, the betrayed partner, in all probability, is not going to believe you the first time.
Yeah.
So they're going to ask it again. And they may ask it again. And they may ask it again. But see, when you have told the truth the first time, you don't have to try to remember, oh my goodness, what did I say? Did I say we were here when we were really over there? Because when that happens, then you get yourself all caught up in a trick bag.
Yeah, but also there is some truth to being honest, telling the truth, and months later, hey, did I say we went to this? I might say, okay, we went to Jack in the Box. Frank, last week you said it was Junior's. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't remember. I know it was a restaurant. Right. That's the important thing. We went to a restaurant. I'm sorry, I forgot, babe. I'm sorry, I forgot the name.
Okay, but see, that's okay because you are at least admitting to the date. Honesty is best if you want to move to restoration. Absolutely, Nicole. Listen, and I'm gonna tell you all again. Frank and I have experienced all of what we're talking about here. Okay, so I'm not just coming from the perspective of a woman of God, a minister. I'm not just coming from the perspective of a counselor or a relationship coach. I'm coming from the perspective of we have experienced all of what we're talking about today. We've experienced it. We've lived through it. We've gotten beyond it. And we're here now trying to help other couples. Because, see, I realize not every couple can openly admit or acknowledge that there's been infidelity in their relationship. And perhaps they should not. But I believe that some of us are called to do that so that we can help other couples in their struggle. So that's why we do what we do. So here's another question for the unfaithful person to ask themselves. How willing are you to be completely transparent and accountable? Because trust can only be rebuilt when there is observable change. Transparent, by transparent, I mean passwords, usernames, access, telephone, tablet, computer, social media, any of those things. Be completely transparent. Excuse me. And if, let's say you worked in an environment where your spouse is able to come visit you and you could go out to lunch or something, and when you were involved in your affair, you forbid your spouse from doing that, allow them to come up, go out together for lunch, or if you work the evening shift, for dinner or something like that. Just be as open as you can possibly be. Dr. Shirley Glass, she wrote a book entitled Not Just Friends, Rebuilding Trust and Recovering Your Sanity After Infidelity. And one of the things she says is this: a truly remorseful spouse will come home earlier, they'll be more attentive, they'll do everything they can to make their partner feel more desirable, and they'll be willing to put up a thick wall with the affair partner. And remember, I talked before about walls and windows. So that's what Dr. Shirley Glass said in her book. And again, the book is entitled Not Just Friends, Rebuilding Trust and Recovering Your Sanity After Infidelity. So how willing are you, as the unfaithful partner, to be completely transparent and to be accountable? And accountable, I mean accountable with your time and your location. Accountable with saying, okay, babe, I'm going, in Frank's case, I'm going down to Brooklyn to hang out with the McCains or hang out with, his good friend Gary or whatever. And even though he's going to New York and I'm here in PA, being accountable would be calling me when he's there, giving me an idea of when to expect him home, and keeping those lines of communication open. Because when the person's out with a side piece, they are not so inclined to answer the phone, especially if it's a woman, if the man's the unfaithful partner and he's with a woman who wants to cause ruckus in his marriage. That I started to say ho, but that heifer ain't gonna be quiet if you ask her to be quiet. Okay, so they're less likely to answer their phone. So be transparent and be accountable. How willing are you to do those things? And what's another question, babe, that they can...
Before we go back to that, to address something Dr. Glass says, I'm looking at this, a remorseful spouse will come home early. I can't argue with that.
Right.
To be more attentive.
Right.
Okay. But how do you make a partner feel more desirable if the issue is with them? A lack of self-esteem, a lack of whatever. That. How do you, in the contents of this infidelity, how do you work on making that person feel more desirable?
Okay. There are lots of ways that you can do that, especially if you already know that your partner has insecurity issues or body image issues or whatever. What you do, you just make her feel like the most beautiful, most desirable woman on the planet, that you really want her. You approach her with that. Hold on, I'm gonna answer your question in a minute, Ms. Myrtle. Yes, that's how you do it. How did you, and ask yourself this, how did you do it in the early stages of your relationship to let your partner know that you really desired them and that you wanted them and that they're the only person for you. Even working through those barriers of your partner's insecurity. And I know why you're asking that question, because I struggled for so many years with insecurity, and it was difficult. It caused difficulties in our relationship. So yeah, you see beyond the insecurity and say, I don't give a damn how insecure my partner is. I'm still going to push through that.
So I do what I'm supposed to do,
regardless of how I'm feeling.
Said, not worried about what you think. Okay. Okay. Understand.
So Myrtle asked the question, what if they always check in, but they're still with the side piece? That's the problem. And here's the thing. Then what that says is that individual they're not ready. If they are still engaging with the affair partner and giving their spouse the impression that they want to work on the marriage, that all the affairs is over, then that person's not ready. He or she is not ready. He or she is absolutely not ready, because there has to be that openness, that accountability, the severance of any type of contact with the affair partner or partners if there's more than one. But if they're doing that, then they're not ready. And here's the thing. If they are doing that and there's no way for you to know, then you ain't gonna know. Then you ain't gonna know, because some people have their side piece well trained. Some people have their side piece. Don't you look at me. Some people have their side piece so well trained that if their spouse were to call them and they're on the phone with their spouse, that side piece ain't gonna say nothing, not a peep, not a nada. Okay, but the betrayed spouse doesn't have any idea that that's going on. But if it is, that unfaithful partner, that husband, that wife, they're not ready. I hope that answers your questions, Myrtle. Oh, that was another question, honey.
I lost where we are.
Hold on. Why you just don't keep the pages like I had them? There you go. There you go, right there. That's the next question.
Oh, okay. How willing are you to get the help of a therapist, relationship coach, a mentor, or accountability partner?
Yeah. How willing is the unfaithful partner? How willing is he or she to do that? Are they willing to go to therapy? Or are they saying, listen, we don't need no help. We could work this out on our own. That's a red flag. I firmly, strongly believe that when, you're welcome, Myrtle, when the infidelity has occurred, the couple should seek all help that they can. Because if they could work out all their stuff by themselves, they'd have done it already. They would have done it already. So yes, is the unfaithful partner willing to see a therapist, a relationship coach, a mentor, or an accountability partner? And that's something that Frank and I have a lot of conversations about, because I do believe that when someone has had an affair, that they should have an accountability partner or a mentor. Just like, and this is the example I use, someone who's an alcoholic. You need the fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm feeling good.
Okay. Let me turn it up. Can you feel it now? We'll move it over this way. Can you feel it now?
We'll see. Go ahead.
What was I saying? About the mentor and accountability partner. Oh, when someone who is an alcoholic, or if they are a crackhead or substance user, when they go into treatment, they have a sponsor. And that essentially is what a sponsor is. A sponsor is a mentor. A sponsor is an accountability partner. That individual you call to talk you down off the ledge. The mentor accountability partner, when there has been infidelity, is that confidant you call to say, listen, brother, listen, sister, you know what? I've been thinking about him all day and I am so tempted to call him, but I called you instead. So let's talk. And the accountability partner will talk with you. If they are a believer, they may pray with you, they may pray for you. But the whole idea is to have an individual to help talk you out of making a self-destructive, self-sabotaging decision. That's their role. That's the goal of having that individual in your life. You have something you want to say, babe?
No, obviously it makes sense. And at this point I can agree. But in the beginning,
right,
I was trying to run so far under the radar. I didn't want to be calling no one to say nothing. I might call and talk about it after the fact.
Yeah.
But I wasn't trying to be talked down off the ledge. Right. I wanted to get up there and jump the freak off.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but listen, we live in community. Karen says her husband ran. I hear you, says my husband, he's sitting here. Obviously, he doesn't stop running, but for a while, he was running too. Because it's hard. One of the things an accountability partner or a mentor will help you do is to look at yourself. And that's hard to look at yourself.
Yeah, I think I said that when I discussed
yes.
How hard. Sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead, baby.
Looking at yourself. And I made this example in one of our talks before that I avoided looking in the mirror as best I could, especially when my mind was thinking about stuff, because I didn't want to see myself.
Right.
I was afraid to look at what was going to be looking back at me, knowing what I was involved in. I avoided, I didn't want to look at myself, whether it's in the mirror or have someone else talk to me and make me think about myself. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But a mentor and accountability partner will sometimes hold up that mirror for you to help you look at yourself, because, we can't fix what we don't acknowledge. And part of the process is acknowledging not just what you've done, but what is it inside of you that compels you to make that choice. An accountability partner will help you do that. A counselor can help you do that, because it's not just a matter of ending the affair. You have to look at what contributed to the affair occurring in the first place.
What if it was your spouse?
It's never the spouse. I know you're joking, but it's never the spouse. And here's the thing.
We convince ourselves
or try
that
to.
Those are one of the excuses we use, that I'm doing this because he or she
didn't do
this, or they're making me feel this way.
No.
That's easy to do.
Yes, and I'm telling you. Now, is there culpability on both sides? Absolutely. But here's the way that you look at it. A person doesn't get involved in an affair because of something their spouse is doing or not doing. Okay? However, there are things that are occurring in the marriage that make it vulnerable to an affair happening. And again, that's a later process. I'll talk about that also, but that's a later process. That's why when I counsel couples where there's been infidelities, there's two parts to this. There's the affair recovery, because we got to look at that. We got to unpack that. Must do that. Then there is the marriage recovery. And that's where you start looking at some of the things that contributed to making the marriage vulnerable, and why that's done later. Because if you do it early on, the betrayed partner is going to feel blamed. The betrayed partner is going to feel as if you are pointing fingers at them and saying the affair occurred because of something they did or did not do. And that's not the case. A person has an affair because they made the decision to have the affair. A person has an affair because they decided to go that route, as opposed to addressing whatever issues they think, real or imagined, exist in the marriage and talking about it. Okay? So that's why we do affair recovery first, and then we work on marriage or relationship recovery. So we covered some of the questions at an unfair. Go ahead, babe.
Nothing.
No, I see a grin on your face.
I was just doing that because I was looking at myself in the camera.
Oh, okay.
Grin.
This is my cookie man, y'all. Y'all gotta excuse him, okay? And for those of you who are watching for the first time, that's my nickname for my husband. His real name is Frank, but I've been calling him the Cookie Man since 1980 when we first met. And there is a story behind that. And I'll tell y'all. Some of y'all know already, but the rest of y'all who don't know, I'll tell y'all one day. Okay? So we covered some questions that the unfaithful partner can ask themselves in terms of whether or not they want to stay in the relationship and make it work. Here are some questions for the betrayed partner, the one who has been cheated on, to ask themselves. And here's one question. Is your partner's infidelity part of a larger picture of their character? In other words, are they generally a good person who has done a bad thing, or are they a bad person who has done a bad thing? Has this kind of thing happened before? Has there been repetition regarding the infidelity? And ask yourself this, aside from this episode of infidelity, let's say it's an isolated incident and it's not a repetition, is your partner generally dependable? And you ask yourself this question and answer honestly, because you know your spouse better than anybody else but God, okay? You know what their character is like, because there are some individuals. I'm going to put it like this. This is something that my pastor, Dr. Darius Daniels, had said, because he was giving making a distinction between Peter and Judas. He said Peter had a bad day. Judas had a bad heart. They both betrayed Christ in their own way. But there was a very distinct difference, because if you read in some of the Gospels earlier on, Judas was messed up long before he betrayed Christ, because he was the who's the person who holds the money?
The banker?
Well, not the banker, not accountant. Who's the one who? Oh, I'm tipping my tongue. But anyway, he was one who was in charge of the money, and there was an incident where the scripture says that he made a negative comment about something that was done regarding finances. Treasurer. Thank you, Myrtle. He was the treasurer. And the Bible says that really he was a thief. He was a thief. So he had a bad heart. Peter had a bad day. Yes, he denied knowing Christ, but he was redeemed. He redeemed himself. He came around. So he had a bad day. So you know your partner better than anyone. Are they a Peter or are they a Judas? So when you ask yourself that question and answer honestly, that can help you to make a decision whether you want to stay in the marriage or whether you want to leave the marriage. Did you have anything to comment on that, baby?
I was wondering, couldn't a bad day, does that mean 1 24-hour period? Could a bad day just mean 6, 7, 8, 9 months? You know, but it's all the same thing.
That ain't a bad day, baby. That ain't a bad day.
You know, because when I hear that,
yeah,
you know, I say to myself, okay, well, based on that, then someone might think I got a bad heart or mean heart, because I was in my situation for a long time. I like to think I was redeemable once I recognized and was willing to redeem myself. So that's what I'm saying. Right. Well, couldn't a bad day just mean a long time before you recognize?
Well, here's the thing. Even because I believe that no individual and no relationship is beyond redemption. So even some, because that's the tagline for Marriage Beyond the Breach. No marriage is beyond redemption. And I believe no individual is beyond redemption when they want to be redeemed. That's the thing. Do they want to be redeemed, even if they have a bad heart? Because especially if you involve God in the mix, God can change anyone's heart. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah. And what's something else that the betrayed partner can ask themselves?
You asking me? Oh, okay. Is the unfaithful partner remorseful, and have they asked for forgiveness? So we talked about.
No, we talked about it from the unfaithful partner's perspective,
right.
about them asking for forgiveness. So this is now the betrayed partner, and the questions they're asking themselves: Is your partner remorseful? Have they asked for forgiveness, or have they just given you a flippant? I'm sorry, and that's it, and leave it at that. No, that's not real remorse, and that's not asking for forgiveness. No, not at all. So that's a question you have to ask yourself. And do they appear to want to just quickly move past it? I said I'm sorry. Damn. Why are you still upset? You tripping.
And that comes.
Why you tripping? Hey, Adrina, good to see you, baby.
That happens. And that happens when you're still stuck, when you haven't really learned how to continue to grow and move. You can say you're quick. You just want to quickly get past all that. But I'm telling you, ain't no quick about this.
There's no quick about it. Yeah.
Even now, certain things come up for us.
Even after all this time.
And, recently something came up. There was some doubt in Val's mind.
You're going to tell all my business. We'll tell all my business.
And for me, I kind of, the question didn't bother me like they used to. I kind of chuckled and laughed at it.
Yeah.
And that bothered her more. And I said, Val, you have to understand, I'm coming from a place of where I am now and not where I was. So it was kind of, I kind of smiled, the baby, you still asking me that? And
I said, yeah, so I am still asking.
Okay, listen, no problem. Before there was a problem if you continued asking that, but
not anymore.
Listen,
not anymore.
Listen, when I get to work, I'll call you. Okay,
yeah.
I'll call you. That's the best I can do. When I get to work, I'll give you a call.
So Karen said, I'm assuming that means her partner or her husband. He said, I'm sorry, and didn't I want to talk about it? That is a problem, because you have to talk about it. You have to unpack everything that transpired. You cannot avoid that conversation, because if you don't get your questions answered, there's always going to be that lingering doubt, that what if, that what really happened. So if there's no conversation about it, that can be very, very challenging. That can make it very challenging for moving through the process and getting beyond some of the hurt and the feelings of betrayal and all that. And I say get beyond. I never say get over, because I don't know if it's something you could necessarily get over, but I do believe you can get beyond it to the other side of it, and have a brand new relationship. Because some people say, oh, I want our old relationship back. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because if that relationship was all that, you wouldn't have ended up where you did. What you want is to build a whole new relationship. And it has to have a foundation of honesty, of trust, of transparency, and accountability. It has to. Go ahead, babe. You want to say something?
And the longer this brother does not, because this you have to understand, there's going to be a point, depending how soon the affairs are found out, that they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to admit everything they did to their wife. So you got to have some patience for that. But the longer he or she doesn't talk about it, the longer you're in that situation, the harder it is for both of you, because you want questions answered. He or she wants to get past it. But again, there's no quick getting past. So at some point, you must talk, and it's going to take some time, and gonna make your head hurt and your stomach hurt and all these other emotions,
and most of all make your heart hurt.
Yes, and all these emotions come in. But the longer you don't talk about it, the longer you are stuck there.
You're stuck. Absolutely. You have to talk about it. And Karen said when he didn't want to talk about it, he ran to her. I'm assuming that's the other woman, and won't talk to you. Listen, when I said earlier that Frank and I have experienced all of this stuff, we experienced that too. Even in counseling. Remember, I don't know if you recall this time. There was one time when we were in couples counseling, and you weren't ready. You really weren't ready. And you were just there because I kind of insisted you go, but you weren't ready, and you were still involved with the other woman. And there had been a time when you weren't feeling well. And you said something about, it came up some kind of way that you had gone to see her or she had come to see you because you weren't feeling well. And I got all upset about it. And you said right there in therapy, said, well, Val, you didn't come see me. You remember that?
I don't remember.
Oh, you don't want to remember.
But
I
right,
remember.
Again, it goes back to some things you don't want to remember. And that's arrogance.
Oh, my goodness.
Total arrogance.
You know what?
Not being selfish, not caring.
Not caring. That's the bottom line, being very selfish.
And that, again, when Val said I wasn't ready, a person who's ready is not going to say that.
Absolutely.
Will never say that.
A person who's ready would not have done that.
Well, of course.
They wouldn't have done that. And I'm telling you, in that moment, praise God. It's a good thing that I don't own a firearm, because I'd have shot that mofo sitting right up in the counselor's office on that day. That's how, I could feel, you know how you get angry down from your belly and the heat of the anger just rises up. Lord have mercy, Jesus. I was so angry on that day. So my sister Karen, I understand exactly what you were talking about. But that sounds again like he's not ready. Hopefully things, I sound like you on repeat. Yes, sis, I know. Pray. And here's the thing. I'm a believer, right? I'm a firm believer in prayer. And you want to pray. Pray for him. Pray for your marriage. Pray for yourself. And maybe at some point you can get to the place where you pray for the other woman. But pray for your husband and pray that God will change his heart and that he will get to the point where he is ready to be honest, to be accountable, and to sever all ties and all connection and all communication with that other woman. Another question for the betrayed spouse to ask themselves: Has the unfaithful partner really severed all ties with the person? Are they still trying to communicate with them on the sly? Okay, if the answer is no, then again, they are not ready. Another question to ask: Is the unfaithful partner willing to answer all of your questions without requiring that you ask the question in a specific way, or saying things like, that's not important, or what do you want to know that for? Yes, Karen, continue to pray for all of you. Yes, my sister. So you have to ask yourself, how is your partner, the unfaithful partner, how are they responding to your questions? Are they readily answering them? Are they forthcoming with information? Are they withholding information? Are they saying, I already answered that? Are they saying that that's not important? Are asking, why do you want to know that?
See,
go ahead, babe.
What happens here, that's not important, or why you want to know that. That's because the person answering the question doesn't really understand why the question is being asked and why it needs to be answered. To me, because I've heard myself say,
I don't believe
I've heard myself sometimes say, oh, that's not so. Why you want that's like? I've said those same things.
I know you have.
It's not why you want to know that for us. It's not that important, but
it is important.
But the point is, that was me saying that, but it wasn't about what I'm thinking of saying. It was important.
There it is.
So, and that's what I mean by the person doesn't realize, or maybe he or she does realize but doesn't want to say it.
Yes. Either it is that they don't realize that the betrayed spouse needs to hear that, or it's a question that they just don't want to answer for whatever reason. And the next question for the betrayed spouse to ask themselves kind of ties into that.
Does the unfaithful partner understand or attempting to understand the depth of your pain?
Yes, and that is crucial. Does the unfaithful partner understand how hurt the betrayed partner is? How deep that goes? Okay, because sometimes it could feel like you got kicked in the gut. It can feel as if everything in your relationship up to that point has been a lie. Do they understand that? Do they know how deeply they have hurt you? And when they can understand that, they're less likely to say things like, well, that's not important. And why do you need to know that?
But what happens when you're both hurting at the same time? If I'm hurting, how can I understand the depth of your pain.
Well, you hurting for
because you might have did something.
Okay, I'm not talking about that. I'm not
okay.
talking. I'm talking about when only one partner has been unfaithful in this particular instance. Now, if it happens that there's been unfaithful here and then there's been unfaithful there as a result of that, that is a higher hill to climb. You got to get over that. So both of you have to be in tune with each other's pain.
Okay.
And now listen to this. Now, don't crucify me just yet when I say this. But even the unfaithful spouse can be feeling some pain as a result of the infidelity, especially when they recognize how they've hurt their partner. That can make them hurt as well. Because I was reading an article, and when a man who had been unfaithful to his wife, and he said when to see the pain on her face and to hear her weeping and moaning, that hurt him because he loves his wife. So I hope that answers your question. Myrtle says, how is he hurting when he is the offender? Yes, the offenders can still be in pain. The offenders can still be in pain at the thought of the pain they've caused their partner this is someone they love. This is someone they have vowed to protect, not just physically, but also emotionally. So yeah, they can feel some pain as well. Of course, it doesn't begin to compare to the depth of the pain that the betrayed spouse feels, but they can feel some pain as well. Now, if it's infidelity only on one side, we don't start out looking at the unfaithful spouse's pain. No, we have to look at the pain of the betrayed spouse. We got to look at that. We have to address that. Later on, we can look at the pain of the other person, because especially in a counseling situation, even in this, when you're dealing with a couple where there has been infidelity, you cannot create an environment where you're placing all the blame on the unfaithful partner and just pointing fingers at them, and you did wrong and you did wrong and you did this bad thing. No, there still has to be, it won't be complete balance in the beginning, okay? Because we're going to be focusing on the betrayed spouse and their pain and getting some beyond that, getting some forgiveness and helping to reestablish trust. So you cannot just completely point fingers and say you're a horrible person because you did this horrible thing. Did you have something you want to add, baby?
Yeah, there was. Now I was looking at her question. In short.
Yeah. So how was he hurting when he is the offender?
Yeah, and I was making more references when both people are in affairs at the same time. I can't recognize her hurt because I'm hurting for what she's doing, or vice versa. That's what I was making reference to. But
or the two have to focus on their partner's pain. You can still focus on your partner's pain. And in a situation like that, if the couple is in therapy, then that therapist is going to have to try to get some balance there in terms of addressing each person's affair. Another question for the betrayed spouse to ask themselves is the unfaithful partner willing to be transparent and accountable for their time and their whereabouts? And I think we kind of talked about that. Are they willing to do that? If they're not willing to do that, then whatever the answer is, whether they are or whether they are not, can factor into your decision as to whether you want to stay and fight for this marriage and work on the marriage, or whether you cut your losses and run.
How willing is the unfaithful partner to make the changes you need to see in order to begin trusting again?
Yeah. How willing is your partner to do those things? If you say to your partner, this is what I need, these are the things I need from you in order to start rebuilding and reestablishing trust. I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. You're a grown man, a grown woman. You can make your own decisions. You don't have to do any of these things. but I'm telling you, this is what I need. If your partner really wants to work on the relationship, and if they want to stay in the marriage or the relationship and to fix some of the issues and get beyond this initial ruckus, they're going to be willing to do those things. If they say, I'll do this, but I ain't going to do that. I'll do that, but I ain't going to do this. That's the problem. Assuming everything that you're asking for is reasonable. Okay? Assuming what you're asking for is reasonable. And what's reasonable? I can't answer that. The two of you have to decide for yourself what's reasonable and what's not reasonable. So when you and I got back together, and I said to things that I said I needed from you, again, was there anything that you thought was unreasonable?
No, and see, we're not going to think anything, especially if you're trying to get back together. Everything's going to sound reasonable until you got to do it.
Until you got to do it.
That's what I mentioned before.
Yeah.
The things, it gets hard. You can say, I'm sorry, forgive me, I want to make it work. Those words are easy.
Very
now, when you got to be more practical and start being accountable and things changes and stuff like that, or your wife or your husband, whomever says, this is what I need to see done. It sounds like you can accomplish those things with no problem.
Yeah, you think so.
But them things is hard.
It's hard.
And you struggle. Because then you'll say, okay, well, damn, I'm doing 3 of them. Could I get a break on number 4? No. Nah, bro. Nah. You got to go the whole gauntlet. What you might need to do, what I found myself doing is saying, hey, I need a little more time to work on this because it entails working on me.
Right.
If I felt a certain some way about, okay, sharing my password for all my life, I'm not going to be able to change that so readily.
Right.
So give me some time to work on that because this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
If I'm not so forthcoming initially, don't cut my head off. Don't send me to the guillotine. Understand that I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to continue to work on it. So you have to talk. Again, you have to continue to talk.
That's reasonable. Yeah, that's reasonable as long as it's not a whole lot of time when it's a year later and you still struggling with giving up your password. No, boo, that ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. I might give you a couple of months to get yourself together, talk to your therapist. And here's another thing. I also strongly believe, in addition to couples counseling, when there's been infidelity, there should be individual counseling as well, because both of you have issues and baggage and family of origin stuff that you've brought into the relationship that inevitably impacts the relationship. So I am an advocate for couples counseling as well as individual counseling. Okay. And most couples are willing to do that. Now, here is a real question for the betrayed spouse to ask themselves in terms of whether to stay or whether to go. If you are deciding to stay, are you doing so because you feel too weak to leave or afraid to be alone? Think about that. Do you feel too weak to leave? Are you afraid to leave? Are you afraid to be alone by yourself? Are you making a decision to stay because you think that you won't have another partner again? Are you making a decision to stay because now you're in your late 40s, your 50s, or your 60s, and you say, "Well, damn, am I going to get another partner?" Ask yourself that question and answer as honestly as you possibly can. And are you staying for the children if you have young children? I can't say for anyone, one way or the other, whether staying for the children is a good thing, but I will say this. One of the best things that a couple, a husband and wife, can do for their children is to demonstrate for them a healthy, loving relationship. One of the worst things they could do is to raise their children in chaos. And I know Frank and I did that with our children. I think by the grace of God, I thank you, Jesus, that our children turned out to be the people that they are, because we did raise them in chaos for a number of years, and it wasn't healthy for them. Okay. Retrospect, of course, I can see that now. But in the midst of all that, chaos, I couldn't see beyond my own pain. So that's all I will say on that. The best thing you can do, demonstrate a healthy, loving relationship. Worst thing is to have to raise them in utter and complete chaos. Now, questions that both partners can ask themselves. Ask as a couple. How willing are you to do the hard work of recovery? How willing are you to do the work of forgiveness? How willing are you to do the hard work of rebuilding trust? You both have to decide if you're willing to do that. Something that Dr. Glass says is that leaving a bad marriage without trying to repair it is like trying to sell your house after a rainstorm has flooded your family room. Rainstorm came, flood your family room. Oh, that's it. Got to get out. Got to sell the house. Okay. That's what she likens leaving a marriage before trying to repair it. I'm in favor of trying to repair. Okay. In the absence of, as long as it can be done safely. If your partner is physically abusing you, in addition to cheating on you, safety, safety, safety. Safety always comes first. So I am an advocate for doing what is necessary to try to rebuild the relationship. Okay. Something that Dr. Phil said one time is that if you want out of your marriage, you have to earn your way out. And by earning your way out means this, that you exhaust every possibility, that you do everything in your power to try to save the marriage. And E. Nicole said, let me move this out the way. I sincerely believe that, she believes that her kids are jaded regarding marriage due to what they experienced in her marriage and divorce. They watched everything and can model what they've witnessed. Yeah, I get you, E. Nicole. Because Frank and I, listen, we traumatized our children with all the chaos and all the fussing and cussing and fighting and bickering and name calling and all the stuff the children witnessed. So yeah, I get it. And it isn't that we don't intentionally do these things to our children. We don't want to do these things to our children, but sometimes we cannot see beyond our own pain. We cannot get out of that pain mode in order to parent differently. And we have to keep the children in mind. Another question for both.
How willing are you to examine some of the issues that made the relationship vulnerable to an affair?
That's key.
But, as I was getting ready to think about that,
okay, babe.
What comes into my mind, how willing are you to examine some of the issues that made the relationship vulnerable?
Yeah.
That, I think was one of our other talks where premarital counseling.
Oh, yes.
Because without that, you're not able to recognize any issues or even how to deal with them.
Yeah.
That's going to make the marriage weak as you progress.
Very true. Yeah. We didn't have sense enough to get premarital counseling.
Is that something our culture even really thinks about?
Well, back then, no. Now, more.
With the advent of
because we met in 1980.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that was 42 years ago when we met, and we weren't thinking about premarital counseling. We also, we didn't recognize the potential of all the stuff we were bringing into the relationship to have the impact on the relationship that it did. Yeah. I mean, when you think about entering into a marriage where one of the partners, myself, having dealt with multiple sexual traumas and never processing it, never getting help for it, never dealing with it, just trying to push it aside and push it aside and push it aside. That's a lot of stuff to bring into a relationship. It has an impact on the relationship. Family of origin stuff. Whether you got mommy issues or whether you got daddy issues or you got cousin, brother, sister issues. All that stuff. Because see, people used to say, well, I'm not marrying your mama. I'm not marrying your daddy. I'm marrying you. No, boo. You are marrying the totality of your spouse's family of origin experience. everything that he or she experienced in their family of origin, they are bringing into that relationship. And that is why in premarital counseling, we have to unpack some of that family of origin issue stuff. When there has been infidelity, part of it sometimes is dealing with family of origin stuff. If you grew up in an environment where everybody was a hoe or a whoremonger, if you grew up in an environment where the men used to say, listen, just get as many women as you can. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're married. Doesn't matter. You can marry her, but always have a chick on the side. If you grew up in that environment and no one ever told you differently and you never saw anything different, we've got to unpack some of that stuff. And you've got to deal with some of that stuff. These are real issues that people grow up with. So yeah, you can tell yourself, I'm not marrying your family, but you are marrying everything your potential spouse dealt with within the context of that family. And it's always healthier to try to unpack some of that stuff. And so listen, I just want to say, you guys, again, if you haven't already, like the thingy thing, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Okay, your girl needs some more subscribers. You can share the video. You can share the video, especially if you know people who may be able to benefit from it. And I think there are a lot more people dealing with infidelity than are willing to admit, because sometimes we suffer in silence. And of course, Marriage Beyond the Breach is available to help you deal with that. The couples that I work with where there's been infidelity, the process is, like I said earlier, you do affair recovery and then you do marriage recovery, because the goal is to rebuild and construct a whole new marriage better than before, with the foundation being truth, honesty, openness, transparency, accountability. That's what you want to do. So I want to thank you guys. Wow, I can't believe so much. The time went by so fast. Thank you.
I saw what time it is.
I wasn't paying attention, but thank you guys for hanging in here with us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions. If you want to reach out to me anonymously, you can reach me at Valerie@marriagebeyondthebreach.com. Valerie@marriagebeyondthebreach.com. In the description, there's a link for our website. There's also a link for our Instagram page. And I just want to say, I appreciate you. You're welcome, Karen. You're welcome. We are available. We want to do as much as we can to help other couples navigate through some of the stuff that they're dealing with. So, baby, you have any last words?
Time to go.
The Cookie Man is 20 minutes past his time because 30 minutes because the Cookie Man typically tells me, Val, I can give you 60 minutes. At that, a brother got to go. So he stayed engaged. So you must have been enjoying the conversation.
I did. Actually, it was okay. Yes.
So thank you guys. I appreciate you. And again, Valerie@marriagebeyondthebreach.com, and in the description, website and Instagram. I'll see you next time. Be blessed.